One racing cars. They are incredibly delicate when they're in those final weeks of their preparations, and they have to be careful. Illness and injury. And you're redlining. You need, by definition, to be amongst the best in an endurance sport. You know you're pushing the edge of the envelope, and only one little stumble away from an injury or one bad breath on a bit of public transport away from a virus.
The leading women, Rosemary Wanjiru still leading the way. Azimiro there in the orange, we've seen her. As we go back to Mengesha, the defending champion from last year. Now then, has that gap? It has. He's been dropped.
Yeah, Mengesha struggling, and this is very tough. And to drop an athlete of this caliber this early in the race, 38 minutes on the clock, you know they're flying up in front. But what does he do now? He's having to make in the ideal world, there would have been a contingency for this sort of situation, Chris, whereby he gets a little bit of help through this middle third of the race, whereas as it is, all the help is for Sawe in front of him. Now, one could argue that in purely competitive terms, that's not an even playing field.
Yeah, no, you make a very good point, but he's got, what, 5 or 6 pacemakers there for himself, Sawe. Mengesha in splendid isolation. And the second group, there's still a little bit of looking around there from Kiptu. Is he there? Is he coming? Is he not? The second group were pacing at 62-minute pace for halfway. But they're some distance behind, approaching 14k.
Well, here is Sawe and his pack approaching 14k. Look at those splits. Fabulous. 2:57, that 9th kilometre. There must have been a couple of twists and turns and bumps in that one. 2:51, 2:51, 2:53. And they go through 14k now. And we'll see what comes up for that particular. The splits coming through just a few seconds. Well, 39.56 at 14k. And that one at 2:55. Now, we'll see if the next one is slower as well. Sawe is an extraordinary animal. His coach saying to us he's been doing 40k training runs at about 2:07, 2:08 tempo at 2,500 metres. That world record, 2:00.
Well, that's the tempo he's moving at, is 2 hours and 22 second pace, because the world record, of course, that he's chasing by Kiptum, the late Kelvin Kiptum in October 2023, is 2 hours and 35 seconds. So he's got a cushion, what, according to that, of about 13 seconds with 40 minutes on the clock.
Rosemary Wanjiru, Rose, as she's more familiarly known, was a winner in Tokyo in 2023. That's where she ran 2:16. Then she bettered that personal best again in Tokyo. So she's got a good record in Tokyo. Dida looking to lower her personal best. She's been training with her husband Tamarit Tola. Azimiro has had top 10 finishes in London and Boston and Chicago and Tokyo. So a lot of experience in the women's field. A lot of the attention, of course, has been rightly so on Sebastian Sawe, but let's not underestimate the strength and depth of this women's race today.
No, absolutely. We see the masses then pouring along the streets. And by the way, for the first time this year, wearing headphones is allowed in this Berlin Marathon. That's always been a complete no-no in marathons, most of the major marathons to date, because of the sort of endangering of the safety factor, endangering of the athletes. If there's any announcements or anything going on around you need to be aware of. You can't hear it if you've got music or something else blaring in your ears. But Berlin have relaxed that rule, and as far as I'm aware, they're the first to do that.
I believe they are, and it begs the question, Tim, you and I both run, even at our advanced age, headphones or non-headphones? Because I've got very strong views on this.
Well, I did have, and do you know what, this last year or so, I run with earbuds. I think it's probably in direct correlation with how slowly I'm going and how long I'm out there. So, yes, I do like a little bit of music, just tingling along with me as I stumble through my across the fields.
Yeah, I am to be convinced. I'm a little bit old school still. I do. Part of me going out running is to also just hear the birds and soak up the sights and sounds. There is a safety element.
But you're a naturist, aren't you? Sorry, naturalist.
But when you're running in a big city, you make a good point about the safety thing. You've got traffic. You need to know what's going on around you.
42.51 officially at 15k. for Sawe during his world record. I can tell you that Eliud Kipchoge, he went out too fast. He went out in under 60 minutes for the first half, was 42.33. But in his world record, the current world record, Kelvin Kiptum, 43.09. So they are 18 seconds inside Kiptum in his world record a couple of years back. There's a nice slow-mo of Sawe, moving beautifully, checking his watch, thinking on his feet. Very, very calm character. Nothing makes him nervous, he said. Not many people can claim to be like that, but he is obviously supremely confident of his own abilities. Sawe, two figures have guided him through his running career. First of all, his teacher at high school, Julius Kemai, who spotted his speed and his talent. And then his uncle, Abraham Chepkirwok, who went to the famous St. Patrick's High School, where so many great runners come from, who ended up running for Uganda eventually. But get this, his uncle was a 1:43 800-meter runner. He made the semi-finals of the Olympic Games in Beijing 2008 and was a World Junior silver medalist. So the genes that Sebastian Sawe have there, he's in the pink in the middle of this group, are extraordinary.
Yeah, he went up to E10 to train where that's the mecca for so many of the Kenyan runners. As we see the pictures of the expo and some of the build-up to this fabulous event. It really is not just race day today. It's been in the making, of course, all year, but it's been a full weekend. We've had press conferences, we've had the expo, we've had various functions, the kids' races yesterday, 10,000 plus, getting involved, making sure, Tim, that we capture the next generation of runners.
Well, yeah, there were over 12,000, in fact, in the children's and youth races yesterday, given their moment in the spotlight. Absolutely brilliant. Champions of the future, surely, certainly from the German perspective as well. And then, of course, the inline skaters, they had their day of days too, on a multi-lap course for the first time.
Yes, they did, yeah. Quite the spectacle. A couple of French winners in that as Sebastian Sawe continues to press on. I mentioned going up to E10. In the end, it didn't actually work out for him. And what is not often known, Tim, and I didn't know this, although I've been up there, it can be pretty haphazard. If you're not in a particular training group, you can be left to your own devices. It can be very quite lonely for certain athletes, and he just didn't quite gel with the group he was in. He went down, he changed his base, hooked up with Claudio Baradelli, as you say, and then that's when his career took off.
Mengesha in the background, top right of your screen. What, about 40, maybe 50 metres down? He's been dropped and he's in no man's land, and that'll make it a very, very tough marathon for Mengesha. Very tough day at the office. Only 46 minutes on the clock. They've gone through 16K in 45:40, and that was a 2:50, that 16th kilometre. So still inside 2 hours tempo. They are absolutely crashing through these kilometre splits here, building up a cushion. It may be needed because the temperature is going to rise. Now, the issue is that in his two marathons so far, Sebastian Sawe, this is only his third race, has run negative splits. That means he's gone out relatively cautiously and then come back with a quicker second half. He did that in Valencia last December. He did it in London in April, and he destroyed the very best runners in the world. So my concern is that this is not a standard race format for Sawe. He's getting... He's obviously sat down and discussed it with his coach and his agent at great length, and the three pacemakers there, we're down to 3 from 5 notably, is that he's been lured into running a race format right now, and he might yet have a fabulous day that he's unfamiliar with.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point to signal early on here. He is the master of negative splits. I say the master, he's only run 2 marathons previously, but he's done them beautifully. And particularly in London, we talk about the drink stations there at 30k at the drink station. That's where he stole the march on everybody else. He decided not to take a drink at 30 and used that as an opportunity, as what often we see, to get ahead. And it was a devastating kick. We'll look out for maybe something similar today, just to up the tempo.
Well, that's them turning at 16.7 kilometres at Hermannplatz. It's the southeasternmost corner of the course. On their left now, as they approach 17 kilometres, they'll have the Hassenheide Park and yet another green area in Berlin. They're never far away from the Brandenburg Gate. For the last, 10 kilometres, they've been making a huge semicircle to the east of the city, always within almost touching distance of the Brandenburg Gate, which is tantalisingly still, well, some 25 kilometres away.
Yeah, they've just gone through an area called Cottbus, the Cottbuser Tor, which is full of nightlife and street bars, and it's actually the centre of the drug scene, if you like, in Berlin, so quite a colourful place. They've come through there, and as Tim said, they're now heading towards the most southeasterly part of the course, and they're going to come into Kreuzberg, the world-famous Kreuzberg, the little Istanbul, the home to the Turkish community. We'll be there very shortly. Women approaching 15 kilometres. We'll bring you a split on that. There's Dida, still looking very comfortable. So in the women's race, we haven't lost any of the big names yet. There is Rosemary Wanjiru, and just taking her drink. Nicely done. A real skill to that. If you haven't done it, taking water or taking your chosen bottle at speed is not easy. And people like Mo Farah, even the great Mo Farah, didn't really take to it naturally initially when he turned to the marathon. 49.05 is the 15-kilometre time, and they've been pretty metronomic as well. 3:21 the last kilometre, 3:15, 3:17, 3:15 again. So pretty regular for the women. Some good pacemaking there. There is Wurku, the first sight of her, with the Germans a lot further back. So the big names all in there. Fakir, look out for her. She's in good form as well. The Ethiopian who was second here last year in 2024.
There's leading German men moving at just inside 2:08 tempo. Here is Sawe moving very nicely indeed, and quite a few minutes quicker than the leading German men. They've gone through 17k in 48:35. And that was a 2:55, a little bit slower. The previous couple of kilometres had been 2:54 and 2:50. The wheelchairs, of course, are steaming along, and they will be towards the latter end of their race now. And there is the silver bullet, Marcel Hug, who leads at the moment, by the looks of things, from David Weir.
Yeah, David Weir had a little chat with him yesterday at breakfast. He's feeling pretty relaxed. He was a winner here in 2015. There is Manuela Scher. A real chance, Tim, here this year for the likes of Manuela Scher and Eden Rainbow Cooper as well from Great Britain, because the likes of Catherine de Brunner and Susanna Scaroni, they're not here this year. So a real opportunity there for Manuela Scher. She's a 6-time winner here in Berlin, but she hasn't won since 2021, so a victory there well overdue for the Swiss.
Yet another of the glorious churches that pockmark this city. They dot the city course. Drinks being shared there amongst the pacemakers, because this is taxing for them as well. They've been moving now for 51 minutes. How glorious is that, as they this elite field approaches 18 kilometres. Just looking at the course, they're on Gneisenau Straße.
Yeah,
heading west.
Yeah, heading west, Tim, into Kreuzberg, which is a wonderful part of Berlin. It's where all the Gastarbeiter, the guest workers, mainly from Turkey, came many years ago and settled, and there's a real vibrancy about it. Some terrific eateries and bars and clubs. There's a great night scene as well. Hasn't been without its problems in the past, but it's become a bit of a tourist destination as well for curious people. And yeah, as I say, known as the Little Istanbul.
Well, Sebastian Sawe not looking stressed or strained, not sweating up too much, Chris, which is a good sign. It suggests that the humidity levels are not bad yet. It means that any sweat that's coming out of his skin is evaporating, and that means you're getting the cooling benefit. When you see somebody sweating up and there's visible sweat on the skin, that's not a good thing, because it means they're losing body fluids and salts but not getting the benefit of the cooling element. Sawe at the moment, 52 minutes on the clock, probably about 8 minutes away from halfway. Looking okay.
Yes, he is. And we should also say what a contrast in conditions this is, Tim, because he will have been training until only just a few days ago up at altitude, of course, with the red blood cell count there, totally different. and he's got all the benefits of all that training at altitude, 2,500 meters where he lives up in Cap Tibet. And he comes down to sea level, as near to sea level as you can, around 20 or 30 meters only above sea level here. It's been raining very heavily, though, we heard, Tim, didn't we, in Kenya recently. It's their rainy season and pretty cool. So this is probably one of the warmer days that he's run in recent weeks.
No, that's exactly right. It is one of the warmer days, but he knew it was coming. Unfortunately, Berlin most years produces absolutely glorious weather conditions. Although, funny enough, back in 2022, it was quite a warm day when Eliud Kipchoge set his world record of 2:01.09. I think it was 18 degrees then. But, of course, now it's up to about 20 degrees on the streets of Berlin. And we understand may well go up 2 or 3 degrees yet.
So the women still looking pretty cool and calm. They've got their own pacemakers as well alongside them. Rosemary Wanjiru, who's 30 years old now. She was 6th in the World Championships in Budapest in 2023, and of course, having decided to come here in Berlin, by definition, wasn't competing in Tokyo at the World Champs last week. But she's got a really good, impressive CV. Looking to go sub 2:15 today was her stated aim, and that is a big improvement on her current lifetime best of 2:16.14. A little word about Mustafa Fakir there, just right of picture in the light green. She was 2nd here last year. This is only her 4th ever marathon. But Rosemary Wanjiru, who was one of the press conference athletes a couple of days ago, said, if the weather's good and I feel fine, then I intend to run a very quick time. And here we are, Tim, ready for wave 3.
Yes, wave 3 local time. It's about 9 minutes past 10 here in Berlin. 7,000 volunteers, 100 music groups around the course. The medical team, monstrous, 600 of them there to make sure that everybody gets around safely and any issues are dealt with as best as possible. But these athletes waiting patiently for their moment of glory. And of course, the great thing about waves is, while they might not have set off with the elite in that first wave almost an hour ago now, the fact is they get that energy, they get that adrenaline, that build-up, the atmosphere, the booming music for a start of their own. They're not half a mile back, they're not a kilometre back.
Absolutely right, and there's clear space ahead of them, of course. That's the main reason for the waves, of course. They can't have 55,000 people all setting off together. That would be complete carnage. So they've got some clear road ahead of them. This is the around 4-hour projected finish time wave. That's quite a popular thing, and I gave a figure, if you were with us a little bit earlier on, Tim, I said that 4,500 people were projected to run sub 3. 26,000 runners, I was told by one of our colleagues. 26,000 people today hoping to run under 4 hours. That's almost half of the entire field. 26,000.
That is astonishing.
Yeah.
That is astonishing. Sawe getting his drink absolutely perfect there. This is at the 20-kilometre drink station. They went through 19K in 54.16. And let me tell you, they went through, that was with a 2:51 kilometre, and the previous kilometre at 18K was, wait for it, a 2:51. So they are absolutely spot on here, moving at 2-hour tempo, 2 hours exactly tempo, which is 2:51 per kilometre. It's going to plan so far for the Kenyan 30-year-old, a latecomer to the marathon game. The vast majority of Kenyan elite athletes have got 10 or 12 or 15 marathons under their belts by the age of 30. But Sawe knows these pacemakers will be pushing, although Kibitok there to the left of the group looks really smooth, doesn't he? Kibitok looks good. They are hoping he'll go through halfway and take Sawe to 25K or even further as they pass through 20K, 57.09 officially at 20K. Now, in the world record, Kiptum went through 20K in 57.39. He's 30 seconds ahead of Kiptum, but Kiptum had an extraordinary second half in his world record. His second half was 59.57, negative splits by 51 seconds. So Kiptum here going about attacking the 2-hour barrier, setting a new world record in a very different manner.
Very different manner indeed. I think he's looking very measured indeed. We've said how cool he looks. He's not perspiring too much. he's got a good racing brain as well. And just to repeat the words of his coach, Claudio Bardelli there, he's like no other guy I've worked with. There's so much feel. It sounds a little bit airy-fairy to put it in these terms, but Claudio Bardelli is saying, I trust him to just make the right decisions on how he's feeling on the day at any particular moment during the race. When you take into consideration the wind, the temperature, the humidity, I trust him to make the right judgment call. We've gone through it all, we've been through the scenarios, and he will make the right decisions on the day. And that's huge confidence in his man. So 30 seconds ahead of world record pace, approaching the halfway mark.
And the projected time for Sawe, by the way, at 20k, 2:00:34, 1 second inside the world record. Now that bears in mind, even though he's much quicker than Kiptum when he was at 20k in his world record, it bears in mind Kiptum's extraordinary second half. So he's on world record schedule, but by the tiniest of margins at the moment. He still looks good to me, not sweating up too much, looks quite calm.
German men and women, Fabian Königstein on the right there for the women, still leading the way, and Hendel there is looking good in the German men's race. There he is, just left of picture in the lilac, I think we can call that strip. Yeah, but Fabian Königstein. So far living up to the pre-race information that we had, that she was in very, very good shape coming into this race here this weekend. And looking good so far. We should also mention, we saw one of the Japanese men. We should also mention Maeda, Honamani Maeda, who's the Japanese record holder. She's also going for a significant mark today, trying to break Noguchi's Japanese record.
So one of the three pacemakers has just dropped back as they approach halfway in this men's race. 59, nearly 60 minutes on the clock. There it is, 60 minutes on the clock in this men's race. And they've gone through 21k in almost exactly 60 minutes to the second. We'll wait for that officially to come through. And here is the half marathon. 60-16, I got it at. What are they giving him? Yeah, 60-16 at halfway. And the world record is 2 hours and 35 seconds. You don't need to be brilliant at maths to know that he's 1.5 seconds inside average tempo for the halfway point there. Now, we've talked about how his two races so far, Chris, have produced he's run negative splits. That means a second half slightly quicker. Might he do that today? Is he running within himself here, Sawe? Sebastian Sawe.
Sebastian Sawe. Well, when he was asked about this earlier in the week, he said he would be looking for something like 60-15 through the first half. We've just seen him go through from almost exactly that, 60-16, and maybe a 59-30 second half. Now that would bring him inside the world record quite comfortably. So the race doesn't really start till 30 kilometres, as we know. He's got a huge lead in terms of winning the race. So back to your little list, Tim, of earlier on, 4 things. First of all, win the race. At the moment, he's got a lovely, comfortable margin. And a second, to try and get the course record. He's comfortably inside that as well.
So the pacemaker, Andrea Kiptu, is with him there now. Kibitok in front. Kiptu is tucked in behind. Felix Kibitok is down to him now, it would seem. Although we understand that aerodynamically, can you believe, the man in the red vest there, Sebastian Sawe, gets a little benefit from one athlete being tucked in behind him. It's a very, very strange physical phenomenon. Don't explain it to me. I don't understand aerodynamics particularly well. I look out of the plane window and stare at the wing and I think, how are we staying up?
Yes.
But this is what has been told to these athletes, and that is why you can see the second pacemaker there, Andrea Kiptu, tucked in behind Sawe.
I think it helps with draft, and we think back to a few weeks ago, Faith Kipyegon, there's the predicted finish time, just literally 2 seconds outside of the world record held by the late Kelvin Kipton. Faith Kipyegon in Paris going for the sub 4-minute mile for the woman. She also had pacemakers behind her, so the same principle applied there.
Yeah, the only problem with that one from Faith Kipyegon is she missed it by more than 7 seconds. It was never going to be a realistic challenge. I think I've got mixed views about that one for Kipyegon because it wasn't realistic from the start.
Can we go back to the comparison between the late great Kelvin Kiptum and this man Sebastian Sawe, who we're enjoying today? the uncanny parallel between their first 2 or 3 marathons. It is extraordinary how many similarities there are.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, Kelvin Kiptum won his first 2 marathons, both of them incredible victories, a world record in Chicago in the second one, and then very sadly died a few weeks after setting that world record in Chicago in October, nearly 2 years ago, in a car crash back in Kenya. Truly tragic, because many believed, and he was young, he wasn't like Sawe, who's at the age of 30 is doing this. He was 22, 23, Kiptum, and many believed he was the future of marathon racing. But his two races were both big victories, both in Valencia and London.
Yes.
And then in his third one, he set a world record. Well, here's Sawe. Big victories in Valencia and London in the last 12 months. This is his third marathon, we've got to remember, in 11 months. So that needs to be remembered. But the similarities are extraordinary. The conditions here very different to Chicago, where things were just about perfect a couple of years back.
And what I like about an athlete like Sebastian Sawe, and he's not alone, is he's now made a few bob already in his career, although this is only his third marathon. He still chooses to live in relative discomfort, I say, quite modest conditions. He lives and shares a room. He's in bunk beds in a camp room. Only sees his wife and child probably twice a month. He could go and he could live in much more opulent surroundings, Tim, but this is all part of the preparation.
Well, everything about his past is incredibly humble. You know, his mum said he ran everywhere as a kid. He moved to Nandi with his parents, but returned to his grandmother. He attended Chukta Catholic Church on Sundays, where he learnt the really strong fundamentals of gratitude and discipline in life. And those two figures I mentioned earlier, Julius Kemai, his teacher, and Abraham Chepkirawok, his uncle, who was a world-class racer himself, guided him. And he did a little bit of middle distance at school. It's not really the classic upbringing from Sawe, who came to marathon running very late.
Yes, he did. There's where Rosemary Wanjiru. The women, incidentally, are approaching the 20-kilometre mark. They went through 15 in 49.06. I think, really, unlike in the men's race, any comparisons or target of the course record are likely to be inappropriate today because of that course record being an incredible 2:11 by Tigist Assefa a couple of years ago. But Rosemary Wanjiru there, so far living up to the billing of being one of the pre-race favourites. But she's got Dira Dida still there for company. There you can see Fantu Worku also there. Worku, by the way, is one of the debutantes. We've got Lemlem Hailu and Fantu Worku, and Tim and I work on the Diamond League circuit. Those are familiar names to us and to, I'm sure, many of you watching there. So 2 marathon debutantes in Hailu and Worku. And Worku, there she is, right of picture, is in this leading group. World silver medalist at junior level, and has got a 67:30 personal best for the half marathon. So Sebastian Sawe continuing and continues, Tim, to look entirely comfortable.
Well, he does, but now tucked in behind the one pacemaker, Felix Kibitok. And Kibitok doing an extraordinary job, and Sawe trusting his pace judgment. They've gone through 23k in 65.46. That was a 2:55, a little bit of a slowing. And we're getting from on the course that the 22nd kilometre was a 2:49, very fast. Now, the sun has come out again. There are substantial parts of the course where they are in the shade, Chris, which will help. They'll be looking for the shade. They won't want to stay in the sunshine. So we go back to the leading German woman there, right of picture. Yeah,
Fabienne Königstein still looking very good, but running on her own at the moment, aiming for sub 2:23. It's a third marathon of the year. She too has got a great background, very strong background in both track and in cross country. She lives and trains in Karlsruhe. She's got a 3-year-old daughter. Third marathon of the year, as I mentioned, but just taking on some fluid there and looking very, very good indeed. Last year she didn't finish in Boston. That was due to an infection. So again, it's just another example of how fine these margins are of getting to the to the start line healthily. But Wanjiru here, Tim, looking very strong indeed. She's got pacemakers surrounding her. She's got a bit of drafting as well. It's quite a big bunch there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Although I'd like to get a better shot of how many of the other women are up there in that lead pick with Rangiero. So, Sawe on his own. The pacemaker has done all he can. Kipruto has taken him to, well into the second half. We're in the 24th kilometre now. And to do that at world record tempo is special. But it is all eyes on Sebastian Sawe. His last pacemaker has been quite magnificent, Felix Kipruto. But it is down to Sawe, and this is a tough one now because he's got a long way to go. He's got 20 kilometres of running to do, almost 20 kilometres of running to come on his own, with the temperature gradually clicking upwards, with the sun bearing down on him, with the humidity levels relatively high for Berlin. It's so unfortunate that he is wonderfully prepared for a world record today, and the weather conditions are not as kind as they have been year after year after year. Normally, you can bank upon the weather in Berlin being just about perfect. Here's that lead women's pack heading towards halfway.
Yeah, heading towards halfway. Course record at halfway was 66.20, but as I say, that was an extraordinary run by Tigist Assefa, the former 800-metre runner who took to the roads pretty early on in her career. Now then, what are we going through? 69.07. So yeah, 3 minutes outside the course record, but a group of 5 or 6 there, including, as I mentioned, the debutant Fantu Worku there from Ethiopia.
Sawe, deep in concentration then. This is where he needs to draw upon those who have helped him get to this point. His wife Lydia, his son Tyrese, his uncle Abraham, who got him out of V10. He moved to the Two Running Club, as it was called, based in Nandi County. Claudia Berardelli took him under his wing. He'd founded that club back in 2016. And this is where you need inspiration, special inspiration for Sawe. In the second pack, the Japanese still moving well. And looking at 27 there, Shin Kimura. He's a 2:07 performer for the Team Honda. He was only 14th in Tokyo last year when he ran that 2:07. Just looking for Kengo Suzuki, see if he's up there. There's one of the leading Germans.
Yep. Looking good is Henrik Pfeiffer. First real glimpse of Pfeiffer. He said he's in the best shape of his life, wants to go sub 2:07 and needs to, as we mentioned earlier on, if he's to retain funding from the German Federation. He's the 4th fastest German in history.
My only concern about Pfeiffer is he ran 4 marathons last year, and that is tough. When you go to the well that many times, even with the new shoes helping you out, that is, I think, at least 1 marathon too many. Sawe, the food, look at that. Now, is that Sawe's feet? Look at the pronation where the ankle rolls inwards. That is really extreme and unusual and not biomechanically perfect. It's far from perfect. I mean, it works for him, so what would we know? But goodness me, that was quite some shot. And, you know, we're used to seeing the slow-mos of walkers managing to lose contact with the ground in race walking competitions, but you don't often get a rear shot in slow-mo of an elite athlete like that with such extreme pronation, that rolling inwards of the ankle.
I am really shocked here. Coming through 25 kilometres, so we'll be able to give you another split and see how he's doing.
We will, yes. That 24th kilometre was a 2:50. When the pacemaker dropped out, it's almost like he picked it up. And this 25th kilometre, we're waiting for that to be confirmed. His split there, we're on 11:32. Now, let me see. When Eliud Kipchoge went through 25k, he was at 1:11:08. And when Kiptum went through 25k, he was 1:12:04. So he's still 32 seconds up on Kiptum during his world record. Now, the rider I must put on that is that Kiptum's 20 to 30k split, and in particular his 30 to 40k split, they were extraordinary. Between 30 and 40k, Kiptum covered that 10k in 27:52, a world-class 10k split on its own. So there needs to be a strong maintaining of form here from Kiptum, as the sort of superficial, the sort of ghost of Kiptum is about 30 seconds behind him at the moment.
Yes, it is. And he's heading south towards the most southerly point of the course. This is where there'll be a relative incline. It feels as though it's quite hard work. It is all relative, as I say. He's going to go from around 30 metres above sea level up to about 53 when he gets to the Wilde Eber. That is at around 27 and a half kilometres. As we see the wheelchairs coming through. Now then, David Weir crossing the line there, looking in some discomfort. No idea what sort of position he's in. We assume perhaps that Marcel Hug has come through, but that is David Weir, winner here in 2015. He's had a couple of second places as well, but David Weir for Great Britain, who's got that long love affair with the London Marathon. Well, he said he was in great shape.
Was that
and there is Marcel Hug. Now then, David Weir. Now here is a shock, because David Weir has come through ahead of the great Marcel Hug. Is virtually indestructible, going for a 9th victory today. But David Weir, subject to confirmation, has won the men's wheelchair race here in Berlin in 2025.
approaching 26 kilometres then? Sebastian Sawe still looking strong. Deep in concentration here, must be under pressure in the third quarter of this 51st BMW Berlin Marathon. There he gets his drink, perfectly handed to Sawe, no problems at all there, absolutely essential. That drink, of course, with a mixture made up by Morton, the Swedish company that has developed a delivery system for the salts necessary in a drink later in the race, in a sort of gel form, so it doesn't slosh around in your stomach like a drink of water, a liquid would.
Yeah, it's much more effective, isn't it? By the way, if you're interested in a small little bit of Berlin trivia, that was Bottle Klaus who was handing the bottle there. He became quite the superstar with Eliud Kipchoge over the years, and even met him at the airport. So he's quite a little feature, if you like, of Berlin Marathon. Bottle Klaus.
Yeah, nothing to do with the fact that he likes a cold beer on a Sunday night or anything like that. But there we go, projected finish time. Oh, it's just slipped outside a world record. The world record, remember, 2:00:35. Look, bottom left of your screen, 2:00:42. That last kilometre at 2:52, the 26th kilometre. This is where he needs the crowds. This is where he needs to dig deep for inspiration. He upped his training last year, we understand, under the guidance of Berardelli, to 200 kilometres a week. It included 40 kilometres runs for the marathon. He did Valencia 2024 in 2:02:05. It was the second best ever debut. And then in the London Marathon, he covered his 31st kilometre when he was with a pack in 2:40. Now, that is 13:20 pace for 5,000. That is a opposition-destroying acceleration to track speeds in the 31st kilometre. I hope he's got that sort of strength and speed up his sleeve here, Chris, because that broke up the pack, and he won easily by 70 seconds in London. Is he going to have as good a day in the second half today?
Well, we always look for signs, don't we? And this close-up shot gives us that. How loose are the shoulders? Is there any tension in the neck muscles? Facially, how is he looking? He looks pretty good. He's got this style of perhaps just leaning slightly to his left, and that maybe gets a little bit more accentuated as he tires, but he looks pretty good. But Tim, you're the ex-professional runner in this team here. How difficult is it to run 20 miles of a race like this on your own?
20 kilometres.
20 kilometres, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, incredibly tough. I mean, essentially in a marathon, if you get to halfway and you're struggling, you're going to have a very, very difficult second half. I think he was comfortable at halfway. The question is, how comfortable is he now? Because he's got nobody to key off. He's having to make all the judgment calls, get the tempo right, push when he's feeling bad, ease back when he's push when he's feeling good, ease back when he's feeling bad, or try and balance out those factors. It's very, very tough. He's got to think on his feet. But the good news is that Berardelli, as you said, exclaimed that he is a very cerebral runner. He is smart. He is very capable of thinking on his feet in races and getting it right. And he's got it right again and again. He's a fabulous half marathon runner. He's won the Seville half marathon back in 2022. His first ever race outside of Africa, he won in Seville with 59:02. He went to Rome, Ostia, a famous big half marathon from Rome out to the coast. He set a course record there of 58:02, even though it's invalid for world record purposes. He went to Manama in Bahrain, ran 58:58. He went on the track in Brussels and ran a 1 hour race and almost set a world record, Mo Farah's world record he almost broke, but he did set a world best for 15 kilometres en route, breaking a record by Haile Gebrselassie. So he's gone through he's done his apprenticeship, I suppose you could say, at the lower distances, the half and the 1 hour run.
Yes, he has, and he's approaching 24 kilometres here, so still working hard here. This is still rising. In Berlin terms, this is about as near to a hill as you get, and that projected time, Tim, just starting to slip. Not by much. It was 2:00:42. It's now 52.
Yes, and for the first time, he's strung together some kilometre splits outside of the required average tempo. His 25th kilometre at 2:55, his 26th at 2:52. That was okay, but his 27th kilometre, the one we've just seen, and as you mentioned, it's slightly uphill, at 2:58. So we'll give him the fact that this is a slight gradient he's moving up, and therefore it's 5 or 6 seconds slower.
Yeah, but when he gets to the highest point, which is just before the 28-kilometre mark, he then goes down, and of course then he's got the opposite effect. He'll be going what feels like downhill. It's actually not downhill that much, it's more flat, but after going uphill for several kilometres, it will feel as if he is actually descending. So you're right, we should just reserve judgment as he does continue to climb here.
Well, we're at about two-thirds distance. 28k is pretty much two-thirds distance, and he is heading for, at least at the moment, the second fastest time in history. He could be under 2:01 here today. He could set a new course record. Remember that course record, the 2022 world record at the time, set by Eliud Kipchoge, 2:01:09. Kipchoge winning here 4 times over the years. There's an astonishing record of consistency from Eliud Kipchoge here in Berlin. And Kipchoge's victories, well, they came in 2017, 2018, 2022 and 2023. So it was over a 7-year span that he set those world records, those wins, Kipchoge. His last win in 2023, only a couple of years back, 2:02:42. Still magnificent running.
And still good crowds on the side of the course there. Here he is approaching the 28-kilometre mark. He'll be coming to the highest point. There you can see just the great camera angle there. That's the brow of the, and I put it in inverted commas, hill. It's not really a hill, but it's the incline. And now you can see, look, the cadence has increased, and he can now go down the other side and now start to stretch away.
Yes, he will enjoy this as he passes one of the water stations for the masses at 28k. No elite drink station. I'm sure he would love one. The temperature climbing very gradually. The crowds can play their part here. Might not be home advantage for Sawe, but it is an incredibly welcoming city, a welcoming city race on this particular Sunday every September. And this is where the crowds, they may not know it, but let's hope they're getting informed by the announcers in the major crowd sections. They can help this man cover these last few kilometres at something close to world record tempo. He checks his watch again. The pressure must be extreme here. I'm sure he's getting advice from the sidelines.
Yeah, he's approaching the Wilde Eber roundabout. This is quite the landmark as well. There's a lot of bands here, great atmosphere. The Samba band will be greeting him in a few minutes' time. And this is so-called the Wild Boar roundabout, because in 1885, a wild boar is said to have appeared in one of the beer gardens and was shot dead by the landlord. And here is the roundabout now. And more recently, well, another story, a wild lioness went missing on the loose, they thought, and there was a manhunt for about 36 hours, including helicopters and drones looking for this supposed lioness that had gone missing. In the end, police had to conclude slightly sheepishly that it was probably a wild boar.
Well, there's an idea of the course. You can see the halfway point right in the middle of the bottom section of the course. And they are now, as they plough around these streets in warm conditions this Super Sunday, at about 28.5 kilometres, bottom left of the screen there, at the southwest corner of the course. He's past Südwest Corso at 26-27 k's, now approaching Platz am Wilden Eber, as Chris said, at 28.5 kilometres. And then Roseneck Platz is the next big right-hand turn.
And still they keep coming. And look at that, what an atmosphere. Let's just soak this up with you. the next wave waiting to go. 4 hours, 4:30, 4:45. And it's incredible, isn't it, that Sebastian Sawe is not too far from having completed the course, and still people haven't even started yet. That's what makes the Berlin Marathon so special, and big city marathons all over the world. Gentlemen there just asking people not to push. Little dip into the women. We've got several women, 7 women at the moment, under 2:20 pace. There is Rosemary Wanjiru, who's been there leading the way, doing the heavy lifting with the pacemakers behind her. We can see Dida still in that leading group. Azimiru's still there as well. Fakir, I'm looking for Fakir. She was wearing a light green top earlier. I think she is still just tucked in there as well. Girma, and don't forget we also had a little bit earlier on one of the debutants, Fantu Worku, as well. Let's just see if we can see that. But Rosemary Wanjiru just having a little look around there. There is, Fantu Worku is just a little bit further behind. Azimiru's, she's fallen off the pace as well. And Fakir is over a minute. So Rosemary Wanjiru has put down the hammer here and has started making some real damage into this women's field, and we'll whittle down to, 3 or 4?
Yes, Wanjiru turning the screw. She comes here fresh, though, Chris, because she was injured through much of 2024. Then she ran in Tokyo back in March, was 5th in Tokyo in 2:19. That was sort of a comeback race for her because she ran 2:16 last year in Tokyo. And I suspect here is feeling very strong indeed. And if she's getting any information that this is a little breakaway now, she's testing the others, that'll give her real reinforcement, a little bit of extra adrenaline will be flowing into those veins.
So Kenyans leading the men's race and the women's race at the moment. Look at that, what a moment. How many members of the public have run alongside the very elite. That's quite a memory. I remember cycling along when Paula Radcliffe was running her world record in London in 2003. Quite the moment.
Sawe here. Well, we know that he had negotiated a slight incline for a kilometre and a half. That's his 27th kilometre was at 2:58. His 28th kilometre at 2:59. Now that is losing a lot of ground on what Kipton was doing at this stage of the race in Chicago 2 years ago. His 29th kilometre, 2:53. So he's a bit back on it at the moment at the front end of that men's race. Approaching 30k now.
Approaching 30k in the men's elite race, but approaching 30 metres, you could say, in the latest wave of the mass start. There they are, and still coming. Brandenburg Gate looking absolutely resplendent, and there's just a lovely wide shot of the Tiergarten left and right as the leaves start to change their colours as we approach autumn. As I say, it feels more like a very much late summer here, doesn't it, today, Tim? But it really does provide a wonderful backdrop left and right.
Now the feared temperature rise, Chris, is unfolding. It's 24 degrees in Berlin at the moment as Sawe goes through 30k, but he is struggling. 12k to go for this extraordinary athlete who has put out an enormously brave attack on the world record so far here today. That last kilometre, 2:54. So he's working hard here to get down towards a world record schedule. His last 2 kilometres, 2:54 and 2:53. But he's now beginning to slip away behind world record schedule. Look at that, 2:01.07. Remember the course record by Eliud Kipchoge 2 years ago, 2:01.09. That is now the more realistic target, I think. Let's forget the world record. Kipchoge's course record would be a mighty impressive goal.
And if he were to finish on that sort of thing, it would still be the second fastest time in history. So let's not write him off too quickly here. And he's doing it. Let's repeat. He will have run, assuming he completes the course, the best part of 20 kilometres on his own since the last of the pacemakers made way. But he continues to look good, and he's enjoying the relative descent, having worked quite hard uphill. Here is the leading German, or one of the leading Germans, Pfeiffer, Henrik Pfeiffer. And we got a split time, I think, for the leading Germans going through halfway in about 63.57, 63.59. That was about 29 seconds outside the the requested, desired pace. They were hoping to go through in 63.5.
Now, that's an interesting point, Chris, because, you know, we were told yesterday, in no uncertain terms, that the leading Germans have got to break 2:07 to maintain their funding. But if it's in 23, 24 degrees centigrade heat, you've got to take that into account. I mean, frankly, anything under 2:10 today for an athlete like Pfeiffer would be fantastic.
It would, absolutely right. And there is the leading German, Fabian Königstein, still looking very good indeed, approaching an hour and a half of running. He's only run 7 marathons in 8 years, as I mentioned, through a various combination of injury and illness, and then taking some time out to have her baby daughter. She had an injury in the back half of last year, but she is delighted to be here, fit and healthy, and has had those 2 marathons in Nagoya and Vienna already this year. So Fabian Königstein looking good, right of picture for Germany, and Henrik Pfeiffer, 4th fastest German marathon runner in history, behind Samuel Fitwu, Amanel Petros, who of course took silver narrowly in Tokyo last week, and Richard Ringer.
Back to Sawe then. Still with over 10 kilometres to go. He's just gone through 30k. Remember, in 1:26.07, and that split at 30k at 2:54. So yes, it's the writing is on the wall. From 25k, his splits have just slowed gradually more and more. There's been 2:55, 2:58s, 2:59s, and for a man of this caliber, this extraordinary engine, probably the best marathon runner in the world at the moment by quite some margin, for him to be defeated by these conditions, I say defeated in inverted commas, it is a very, very difficult day at the office. So 2:56 his last kilometre, 2:01.12 now his projected time, and that is just outside the course record, but that would be a fabulous achievement in these conditions.
Yeah, we shouldn't underestimate how tough it is out there. Again, because he's looking so fresh, he's not perspiring particularly profusely. He's making it look very easy. And right of picture, his Kenyan compatriot, Rosemary Wanjiru, continues to really turn on the gas here, and she's split this field, and the likes of Azimiru and Fikir, who we saw in the early stages, have been dropped, and she's now dropped the likes of Dera Dida as well. And so Rosemary Wanjiru, who said, if I feel good and the weather's good. Now, whether you feel the weather's good at 24 degrees is open to interpretation, but she's obviously feeling very good indeed here, Tim, and is really starting to make a statement in this women's race.
Isn't she just? Yes, and great for her that she's got this company. When you're running along in a pack like that, it helps you relax. You know, you're not really focusing upon your own effort, your own discomfort in any way. Mutai doing a wonderful job, mind you, for pacing her at the moment. And of course, the question again begs, are those athletes further behind her? Have each of them got a pacemaker through this, the most difficult section of the race, really, the last third of the race?
Approaching 28 kilometres, by the way, in the women's race, and the projected finishing time, 2:18.40. So that would be quite appreciably outside her best, but we have to take into consideration the temperature and the conditions out there in Berlin today.
Well, Sawe, the vest he's wearing, incidentally, is a special cooling vest, so more air can get through it and onto the skin. It's it's almost reminiscent of the old Ron Hill vests back in the 70s, which were basically string vests. They were string netting vests, but they allowed an awful lot of the skin to be exposed. And the question begs, why isn't that being used now? I'll tell you what, when I ran in the 84 Olympics, we had the string vests, which were effectively a sort of network of material where a lot of the skin was exposed to fresh air.
You're using shorthand as if we know what you're talking about, and I do, but for younger viewers, 1984.
What, you think I mean 1884? Listen, I wasn't around when the Siegersäule was being built. Anyway, Sawe looking a little tired there as he negotiates that corner, and what a contrast. It's almost in direct inverse proportion to the race of Kiptum 2 years ago in Chicago, when Kiptum was accelerating at this stage and flew through the last 15 kilometres. Here we've got Sawe, and he is struggling, and that projected finishing time coming down all the time. 2:56, that last kilometre. He's just approaching 32k. In fact, just eased past 32k. He's at about 32.5k now, excuse me. But 32k he went through in 1:31.59, and that means it was indeed a 2:56 per kilometre. Maybe he did the right thing, Chris, because he built up that cushion in the first half when the temperatures were lower. And would it have been possible to accelerate if he'd run a more conservative first half? Would it have been possible to accelerate through this second half? I'm not sure.
Yeah, almost 2 minutes his lead is actually on the rest of the pack, and whether he knows that, whether he's getting information relayed to him from the side of the course, we don't know, but we can say that his advantage here, even though he's slowing down against the world record and the course record a little bit, he still has that comfortable buffer of almost 2 minutes. Just get a sense of how big that is, maybe from our aerial view. Some wonderful, wonderful camera work going on, by the way, on this Berlin Marathon course. And just getting some information about Henrik Pfeiffer. 1:31 at 30 kilometres. So a 17-second advantage in the German men's race, effectively. Pfeiffer leading Hendel by just 17 seconds at the moment.
Well, the stride length has gone a little bit. The knee's not coming up. This is survival now, I think, for Sawe. It's survival in his world. Still supreme running compared with most of the marathon runners on the planet. But he is certainly struggling. His 32nd kilometre is about to... his 32nd kilometre was at 2:56. He's just gone through 33 kilometres. Barring disaster, I don't think there's much doubt he's got the race won. But his last 3 kilometres, 2:54, 2:56, 2:56. Every kilometre now, the ghost of Kiptum is coming up behind him, and I think now it probably would be some way ahead of him up the road in front. The 33rd kilometre at 2:57, another slight slowing.
Yeah, not very much, is it? But it's just enough, and cumulatively it starts to take its toll. And he's going to take a right turn in a moment into one of the most famous streets in the whole of Berlin, the Kurfürstendamm, the Kudamm, famous for its shopping. It's the Fifth Avenue, or Bond Street if you know London in those terms. Lots of high-end luxury shops. He won't care about shopping today. Maybe he'll do a little bit before he gets on the plane back to Kenya, but that projected finish time just slipping away. But let's just put it into context. This still would be among the top 10 times of all time were he to finish in 2:01:24.
Well, it would make him the third fastest marathon runner in history, behind Kelvin Kiptum and Eliud Kipchoge. Kenenisa Bekele is third in the all-time list. Remember that win here back in 2019 in 2:01:41. That's still the Ethiopian record, by the way. It's resisted all assaults in recent years. Bekele's career now beginning to wind down. He was due to start here, just pulled out a few days ago. That's a great shame. He would have been a real battler.
Talking of battles, here's the women's wheelchair race, and it is Hall coming through over the line. Well, that is another shock there, with Rainbow Cooper in second place for Great Britain, but Manuela Scher there, who was hoping to capitalise on the absence of the likes of Scaroni and of De Bruyne, once again having to settle for third place.
Well, she was one of the favourites, Manuela Scher. She, in fact, has taken it, or has she? I'm not sure if that is the correct result. We'll wait for confirmation of that. De Bruyne, Catherine De Bruyne, who wasn't competing here, one of her main competitors from Switzerland. She was victorious here 3 times between 2017 and 2019. And McFadden, one of the pioneers of the sport in this field today. We'll confirm that women's wheelchair result for you as soon as we can. But Sawe here enjoying a little bit of shade from the strengthening rays of the sun, Chris. 1 hour 37 on the clock. He's got, about 25 minutes of hard running to come. It's still a long way. He's still looking calm, but I think he will know that the light is fading on not only the world record, but probably the course record as well now. And I suppose, his team, his management team, will be watching this, and Berardelli will be watching this and thinking, okay, today we've been beaten by the weather. What's next? Is it London in April? Is it Rotterdam, a very fast course? There's 3 or 4 courses in the world that can offer world record conditions.
Yes, and his shape won't change, will it? Ironically, and this will not be good news for him, Monday, the temperatures are going to be much, much lower, and it's going to be more typical of what we call Berlin weather tomorrow. But of course, the race is not tomorrow, it's always on Sunday, and that's the frustration. The weather, for all the organisation and all the wonderful logistics and preparation of Mark Milder and his team, the one thing they cannot control is, of course, the weather.
No, exactly right. 2:57 again, that 34th kilometre. He's gone 2:56, 2:57, 2:57 his last 3 kilometres. This is about survival for him. Sebastian Sawe pushing on now. The victory not in doubt realistically. His coach Claudio Berardelli has done everything right. He's an extraordinary individual, Berardelli, who I understand, with names like Martin Nell and Janis Jepkoskai behind him, has done all he could to prepare him here today.
Kenyan leading the women's race as well. Wanjiru now has a lead of 24 seconds over the likes of Gebru and Dida. That's been a decisive break there from Wanjiru, flanked by the pacemakers led by Mutai, who's doing a sterling job there. She's got almost complete protection there. Not that there is any wind, but the drafting is very important as well. So the likes of Azimiru and Fekir and Guillermo have been dropped there as they approach the iconic Gedächtniskirche, the Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church, which was built in 1895, just a little steer away, just a minor hiccup there, Tim, at the water station. Ephraim from Sawe just had to veer to make sure he got his right bottle.
Yeah, 1 hour 40 on the clock. I think he's entitled to be a little bit tired now. He's right now he's at almost 35 kilometers. He's veering right here onto Tauentzienstraße. He's within a few hundred meters of the Tiergarten, over to his left as he heads through this arch, and the crowd's still massive out on the streets of Berlin. The city has come alive today like never before, hoping upon hope to see some records broken. Of course, Eliud Kipchoge built up a massive following here, Chris, and remember the crowds in 2022 when he last ran were quite magnificent. They were huge.
Yeah, they were. This is actually where the marathon used to finish. The finish used to be on the Kudamm, just near to the Memorial Church, and of course all that's changed. And so much has changed about Berlin, of course. For 28 years it was completely segregated. The Berlin Wall, of course, and we'll see 1 or 2 glimpses of that. It was a very, very different place between 1961 and 1989, just before German reunification. And one of the things that the Berlin Marathon has done is to reunify and consolidate Berlin's contemporary feel. But they'll be going through in the latter stages places of Berlin where you couldn't cross, you simply couldn't go from east to west Berlin legally at all. And now the runners have got the freedom of this city and have done for some years.
Well, he's got the freedom of the roads as Sebastian Sawe, but he's now operating his kilometre splits work out at about 2:04 tempo now. So with every kilometre, with every stride, he's losing ground, sadly, on the hoped-for finishing time, following those 3 blue lines dotted across the city, zigzagging around the city. Now, and at almost 36 kilometres, he will soon be on Bülowstraße. And he is sweating up a little bit now. It's 24, pushing 25 degrees in Berlin right now. And this is the hottest. I mean, Chris, I've been coming to this race. I've been so lucky. I've been coming here for over 20 years. It's never been anywhere near these sorts of temperatures. I mean, it is extraordinary. You think about back in 2014 when Kimetto set a world record. It got up to 23, but only towards the very end of the race. When Eliud Kipchoge set a world record in 2018, it only got up to 18 degrees. This is unprecedented. By far the hottest day there's ever been in Berlin on Marathon Sunday.
We will get it confirmed, of course, officially, but I think we can say with some certainty, unofficially, it is the hottest Berlin Marathon that we have ever seen, no doubt about it. And we should, against that background, Tim, pay tribute to what this man is making look very, very easy indeed. This guy is running in mid-20 degrees centigrade temperatures and making it look as though it's 10 degrees cooler. Here is Akazaki from Japan, one of the many Japanese in the race.
Yeah, Akazaki looks to be having a good run here. And he's a 2:07 performer. He was 6th, actually, in Paris last year at the Olympic Games. Now that, talk about contrast, was an incredibly tough course in Paris. The times produced for those Olympic marathons surprised everybody last year. Fabulous racing, great, very fast times too on a hugely challenging course around the French capital. Indeed, it headed out to Versailles, of course, quite a few kilometres outside the city. But Akazaki had his day of days in Paris last year with that 6th place, and he's having a good run today.
Meanwhile, at least 2 or 3 minutes ahead of the Japanese, Sawe continues to make his way back towards the centre of Berlin. There'll be another sharp left turn coming up. And from there, he will be able to start seeing the likes of the Potsdamer Platz and the Tiergarten, and you might get a first glimpse. There's a particular part of the course, Tim, where you can just see, not that he'll be thinking about this, but if you just turn your head to the left, you can see, tantalisingly, the Brandenburg Gate, but he's got quite a big loop to do before he gets to that situation.
Yes, he has. He's at what? 36, almost at 36 and a half kilometres at the moment on Bülowstrasse. He will take a sharp left soon.
2:59, by the way, that last K.
Yeah, exactly. It's gone 2:57, 2:57, 2:59, his last 3 kilometre splits. The Kenyans loving it. Looks like they're heading for double victory in Berlin today. Great to see them cheering madly. I met the Kenyan ambassador here after the race over a cold drink 3 or 4 years back. I hope he's there today. It would be lovely to catch up again, and they do have something to celebrate again and again. And I know they'll be watching this back in Kenya in E10 and Eldoret. They will be cheering on these very pictures of their great champion, Sawe.
Yeah, Sawe will be first home, barring any major incidents there. Just again, the spectators getting involved. Isn't that nice, being able to run alongside? And yeah, you can do that for about 100 metres, mate. Can you do it for 42 kilometres?
What, can you do it for 5 minutes? Never mind about 100 metres. I couldn't do it for 100 metres even, so good for them for enjoying their day, keeping Sawe company for a little while, because it's been a lonely journey this last half hour or so since he lost the last pacemaker, Kibitok. Less areas of shade and breaking out into the sunshine again. I bet there's a huge contrast for him now when he's under this much pressure. This is the big left-hand turn at about 36 3/4 kilometres. This is where he moves on to Potsdamer Straße. He's already been along Kudamm, Kurfürstendamm. That was at 34k. This is one of the great cheering sections. Look at the crowd, so it's magnificent.
Yeah, particularly on the right-hand side there. And Sawe will be enjoying the shade here, the relative shade. He's got the blue markers, the 3 parallel blue marks you can see there. That's the shortest line, isn't it? The runners will be sticking to.
So he's on Potsdamer Straße now, almost dead straight for about a kilometre. We'll get to Potsdamer Platz at 38k, just after 38k, where he'll veer right. Nearly all the corners in the Berlin Marathon course are very gentle corners. You know, it's not about how many corners you negotiate, it's the nature of those corners. And most of them are gentle, wide, swinging turns, and that's what enables the athletes to maintain their tempo, maintain their rhythm.
Rosemary Wanjiru went through 30 kilometres in 1:38.41. She's now approaching the 33-kilometre mark. And just to remind you, the women's race here in Berlin hasn't had a Kenyan winner for 7 years. It's been Ethiopia all the way for the last 6 years. Is this going to be a Kenyan double and a long overdue Kenyan victory on the women's side? Just trying to get as much fluid down her as possible. The mercury rising at 24 degrees and still likely to go higher today. But Rosemary Wanjiru has got a lead, last we heard, of about 24 seconds over the athlete in second place. And some of her big rivals, Azimuru and Dida, have been dropped. And Wanjiru, at the moment, is on course for her first ever victory here in Berlin. Was due to race here last year, as Tim mentioned, of another athlete earlier on. Didn't make the start line here in 2024, so relatively fresh here in 25.
Sawe then. Well, it's been a fascinating journey to this point for Sawe. His 37th kilometre, incidentally, another 2:57. He's in the 38th kilometre now. He moved to E10 back in 2017, some 8 years ago now, when he was just 22. And his uncle helped him with kit. His uncle, Chep Kierwalk, said, I've got loads of old kit and bags and shoes in a back room. Helped him with that when dozens of others, hundreds of others in E10 struggled just to run in a pair of beaten up old training shoes. And his uncle thought he'd be an 800-metre runner, a middle distance talent. As we go back to the jumps, I'll just break off this, Chris. Here's Pfeiffer.
Henrik Pfeiffer with a lead a few minutes ago of about 17 seconds over his compatriot Sebastian Hendel. They went through halfway outside of the desired pace, and as we mentioned, I think the federation, who will be determining funding decisions, have to surely be a little bit flexible given the conditions here today in Berlin. But he says he's in the best shape of his life, and he's looking good here, and he's the leading German.
Well, I mean, it's so intensely trying running in this sort of heat. They've got to be worth 2 or 3 minutes, these conditions, at least, I would have thought. Pfeiffer grimacing there, 1:49 on the clock. He's got, about another 20 minutes of running to come?
Yeah, and he'll know these streets very well. He was a talented footballer, by the way, was Pfeiffer. Had a trial with the great club at Schalke. Was told he was a little bit too chubby at the age of 14, so he decided to switch to running. And there is Fabienne Königstein, still the leading German woman. And look at this. Wow, she has caught right up on Azimiru, whose bib has just fallen away. But we remember that orange vest, the white and orange earlier on. So this is quite the performance from Fabienne Königstein. Admittedly, Azimiru has gone backwards. She was really struggling to keep pace with Rosemary Wanjiru earlier on, but Fabienne, look at that stride, Tim.
That is somebody who is feeling good and stretching out really nicely, Königstein. Well, she's got a pacemaker there, effectively, in that black and white striped vest, the old
vest introduced by Dave Bedford many years ago at the London Marathon for his club, Shaftesbury Barnet Harriers. That's their colours, and it's been retained by the Berlin Marathon. Not many races have retained it, but Mark Milder likes it. And, yeah, she's got a bit of help through these difficult latter stages there. By the way, the 38th kilometre for Sawe, 1:49.47, his split there. That was a 3:01, the slowest kilometre of the race. It's the first time he's dropped outside 3 minutes, and he's still got 5K to go. Yeah. Checks his watch.
Checking his watch, yeah, and he's into the last 10 kilometres comfortably. There is Potsdamer Platz, one of the big landmarks again of Berlin. How many have we mentioned today? One of the most iconic places. He's been over the canal for the last time. There is Potsdamer Platz. He crosses the former wall. You can still see a little mark on the floor. And this is where the Berlinale Film Festival is also held here every year. And this is the point where, if he were to just glance to his left, he might be able to get a tantalising glimpse of the Brandenburg Gate. But he'll have to wait a little while longer, Tim, before he actually goes through the famous arches.
I was touching upon how he got into distance running. Sebastian Sawe, he turned up for an 800-metre race, and he was late, and he'd missed the race, and there was only a 5,000 left, and without any warm-up, he stepped into this 5,000-metre race up in the Rift Valley and ran 13:56 and won the race. He was the fastest of the day when there were several other 5,000-metre races, and I think that was him marked down as a distance runner. Quite astonishing. He's still got no recognition. As you said, his family said, join the police. We've got an opportunity for you to join the police. Give up running. But he trained hard, had ruptured a tendon back in 2020, and then COVID struck. He went through a difficult period. He married Lydia, had his son Tyrese, and his uncle Abraham got him out of E10 and moved to that the 2 running club based in Nandi County, and the rest is history. The progress has been meteoric since the pandemic.
Well, there is the rear view as one of the pacemakers just tries to avoid tripping up, and Rosemi Wanjiru really nicely just checking that he's okay. Water is being supplied, and if you're with us a little bit earlier on, for the elite runners, there's a second chance to take an energy drink if you miss your own. So Rosemi Wanjiru, I think, is also supplementing with good old-fashioned tap water there. 35k, I can tell you, the Germans, Pfeiffer leading the way, and now Mochman is behind him by less than a minute. So Mochman, who we haven't really seen or mentioned in the race so far today, is actually going to start putting a little bit of pressure on Pfeiffer. So Johannes Mochman, who's the 5th fastest German in history, starting to take closer order.
I'll talk about carrying a weight. Sebastian Sawe carrying the weight of expectation here, and he's probably performed better here in growing temperatures than anybody else in the world possibly could have done in this 51st BMW Berlin Marathon. There's an extraordinarily strong field behind him. Many of them will be suffering terribly in these warm conditions. But this is a man who's got cross-country toughness. He's been 7th in the last 2 editions of the World Cross Country, in Bathurst 23 and Belgrade last year. Prague half marathon winner last year in 58, inside 58.5 minutes. He won the Copenhagen half marathon last year. And he's used to running negative splits at big marathons, and he stepped out of that comfort zone today because of the weather. I think he's been defeated by, not because of the change in tactics that he and Coach Berardelli have decided to go for.
And in terms of kilometres, this is all now academic, but it's slipped into 3 minutes plus for the first time the last couple of Ks, 3:01. 38 and 3:02 the last kilometre through to 39, so just slightly slipping away. Wanjiru still looking good there with her designated drink, and she's still got a healthy lead over those chasing. But she, look at that, the stride is still pretty nice. Along, the cadence looking good. She came in injury work, and we've seen Rosemi Wanjiru taking on an awful lot of liquid in the last couple of shots we've seen of her.
Well, you mentioned, Chris, that she moved to Japan at 16, 17 and stayed there for many years. You know, the Kenyan athletes that moved to Japan end up being very, very smart cookies. They're very, very capable of thinking on their heads, being more independent. That sort of taste of life internationally in the Japanese culture is a massively beneficial element to the lives of those athletes that choose that journey.
Yeah, it's a big move as well. She went when she was very young, so new language, new culture, very, very different living conditions to what she was used to. Sebastian Sawe at 40k.
Yeah, 1:55.50 at 40k for Sawe. And I can tell you that during his course record of 2:01.09 at 40k, Eliud Kipchoge was 1:54.53. So he was almost a minute quicker at 40k was Kipchoge. So Sawe now heading for something around 2:02, maybe just outside 2:02. Ironically, he could still run a personal best here. His personal best is 2:02.05 from Valencia in December last year. I mentioned this is his 3rd marathon inside, about 11, just over 11 months. I don't think that's a factor. I think what's defeated him today absolutely is the temperature and the humidity, nothing else. Otherwise, we'd have seen something far more special today. Look at his projected finishing time, 2:02.11. He may come through the Brandenburg Gate and see that he's got a personal best in sight if he gets his head down.
Absolutely right. And just to remind you, for those who like the numbers, 355 metres the distance between the Brandenburg Gate and the finish. This is one of the most beautiful squares in the whole of Berlin, the Gendarmenmarktplatz, one of the iconic areas. And north and south there you can see the German and French. The French to the top of picture, the German to the south, cathedrals which have been recently renovated. And Tim, you'll be pleased to know that Berlin's most famous restaurant is just very close by here, Borchardt, and I've booked a table for 7:30.
I hope you haven't, because I wouldn't possibly be able to afford it, but it sounds like you're treating us. Yeah, brilliant. Anyway, in the shade now, Sawe on the clock at this stage, 1:57.39. He's got about 5 minutes of running to do. He negotiates a left-hand turn there, does Sawe, at just after 40.5 kilometres. A little bit of zigzagging now as he heads towards Unter den Linden. He'll negotiate a right-hand turn in a few seconds, and then a further left onto that final straight road, which will take him under the Brandenburg Gate and heading for, we hope, victory. It will be 3 out of 3 for Sawe, barring disaster, but he's had to give in. Mother Nature cannot be defeated by anybody. Doesn't matter how magnificent a sportsman or individual you are in any other walk of life. Mother Nature rules. We all know that. And she has come out on top today against the best marathon runner in the world. By a margin, the best marathon runner in the world. And if he can't beat Mother Nature, we know nobody can.
Little glimpse there of the crowds are waiting on the finish line, near the finish line. It is quite the sight. 41 kilometres. He's got 1,200 metres to go.
And what a glorious sight the Brandenburg Gate will be for this man. 40k, 1:55.49 officially. And waiting for that. There's that right-hand turn. He's on this from now for literally about 150 metres, and then he'll take a left onto Unter den Linden. And Brandenburger Tor will be waiting for him. So, 2:58 the last kilometre. He is trying to rally. It's been an incredible effort. That 41st kilometre, 2:58. He got there in 1:58.47.
Yeah, onto Unter den Linden from Glinkenstrasse, so into the last kilometre now. And the noise that will greet him as he turns left here, Tim, and he will see for the first time the Brandenburg Gate.
What a welcome sight this will be for Sebastian Sawe. The crowd roaring him on. They don't care that there's been no world record today, that there's to be no course record. There might be a personal best for this man, but it has been him up against nature, and nobody could have punched as proudly as he has for these last 2 hours. There's 2 hours now on the clock for the best marathon runner in the world. He is so new to this game. Less than 3 years ago, he'd never raced outside of Africa. Since then, he's had a string of victories at the half marathon. He will record here today with about a kilometre to go, his third victory at the full marathon distance. He is the real deal, this man. He is young for a marathon runner. He may be 30, but he's running on, well, effectively 23-year-old marathon legs. He's got years of development to come yet. He was a late starter, relatively speaking. He knows these streets of Berlin. In April 2023, he came here and he won the Generali Berlin half marathon. He did that in 59 minutes exactly. Well, today that sort of speed has eluded him. But at last, the Brandenburg Gate welcomes him home. The crowds roar him home. It is such a short distance from the Brandenburg Gate to the finish line. And now Sebastian Sawe can relish the daylight, the sunshine, the spotlight, so hard worked for over this last 2 hours. He won't get a world record, a course record, or a personal best even here today, but he will have destroyed one of the greatest marathon fields ever assembled, and he does raise his game as the finish line approaches. These last few couple of 100 metres lie ahead of him now, and a little bit more bounce in those legs. He will, I'm sure here, be more fatigued than either of his previous 2 marathons. The wins in Valencia last December, the monstrous win in London earlier on this year by over a minute. It's 3 out of 3 for Sebastian Sawe. The Kenyan is on top of the world once again. The 51st edition of the BMW Berlin Marathon has another superstar on its list of winners. Sawe there, crosses the line unofficially in 2:02.18. We shall see what is given as the official winning time. But he is utterly spent. He has been exhausted for many kilometres, and the weather today is the victor alongside Sebastian Sawe. His supporters, his compatriots, they don't care. They continue to celebrate this man's astonishing run in these conditions. I suspect there's nobody else in history who could have come close to the time he has produced. We're waiting for confirmation of that winning time. But Sawe, in fine style, destroys the world here in Berlin. And that grimace, well, it says so much as he breaks the tape.
That was tough, wasn't it? By far the hardest marathon that he's done. 2:02.15, confirmation of the winning time. And that is, 10 seconds outside his personal best. So that checklist of things that were perhaps on the menu until there is Mark Milder, the race director, first to congratulate him, just reminding him, I'm sure, of what his obligations are from now. But for the moment, he's just going to be given a few moments, rightly so, to recover. But the course record was there for the taking, possibly the world record. Even some people muttering, would be this the first ever sub-2-hour marathon legal. And of course, as soon as we saw the conditions,
Kipchoge, a world record holder here back in 2022. Both of them quicker than Sawe today. And 25. Well, what a run this is from Akira Akasaki. The Paris Olympic sixth placer is running brilliantly here. The glasses come off. Is he in third place? Second place, this man. As he approaches the Brandenburg Gate, Akasaki, well, just checking his lifetime best, 2:07.32. He's going to smash that. He's got 2.5 minutes yet. The Brandenburg Gate for him. This is incredibly special from the Japanese. They will be loving this in Japan. Remember, his compatriot Suzuki is the national record holder with 2:04.56. He's going to miss that by not much more than a minute or so. But it has been a quite brilliant second half from him. And he is rightly being celebrated by the huge crowds on the Finnish side of the Brandenburg Gate. Debele coming through for third place. Look at the bounce and the stride of Akasaki. He's enjoying this. Debele in third place, pushing on. But he's in no chance of catching Akasaki. Chimdesa Debele of Ethiopia, only 22, 8 days ago in third place. But Akasaki able to celebrate here. What a triumph for the Japanese athlete. What a storming victory for him in terms of his compatriots and the rest of the field behind the superhuman Sebastian Sawe. What a triumph. Just outside 2:06. And a personal best for him by well over a minute.
Well, that's quite the story, isn't it? Sawe, we're not surprised to see him win, but we are surprised to see Akasaki coming home in second place. Here is Debele taking third. Almost exactly a minute, incidentally, the winning margin for Sebastian Sawe today. Just checking the Japanese record, that's still safe. 2:04.56 from Kendo Suzuki, who is still out on the course somewhere.
Yeah, third place and onto the rostrum. Chimdesa Debele made his debut in Valencia last December. 2:04.44 there. Well, today he's run, what, about 2.5 minutes slower than that. That probably is a measure of the way the conditions are affecting these athletes. He was third in Rotterdam back in April. Only his third marathon, but his third inside, what, some 10, 11 months. Great half marathon runner too is Debele, the best of the Ethiopians today. So Kenya, Japan, Ethiopia, 1, 2, 3 in the men's race, and it looks like 4 is going to be another of the Japanese squad coming through.
Henrik Pfeiffer is in the final few metres of the race. The leading German has been quite the battle, hasn't it? Johannes Mochman came back to put him under some pressure.
Urano, I think they're in 4th place. Yuhei Urano, the 27-year-old Japanese, made a fabulous debut in 2022, 207 in Osaka. But that a great run from Urano. The Japanese 2nd and 4th today. And here is Pfeiffer. Goodness me, the best of the Germans has disappointed nobody. It's been a brilliant run from the 32-year-old, from the Dusseldorf athlete. This has been spectacular. Through the Brandenburg Gate. The Cologne winner back in 2017 when 2:13. He took a long time, Chris, to get to this standard. You know, Pfeiffer for years was a 2:13 athlete, a 2:15 athlete. Didn't come anywhere near this sort of standard.
And here he is, going to break what? Just outside 2:09, certainly break 2:10. Just having a little look behind. Mochman, I think, is going to be the 2nd German home. But this has been quite the performance here from Henrik Pfeiffer, living up to his billing as the German number 1.
4 marathons last year, astonishing. He was 3rd in Houston, 7th in London, 24th in Berlin last year. Well, he's in the top 10 this year, so much better than a year ago. And he even ran in Singapore last December, sweltering Singapore. Been there myself a couple of times. But inside 2:10 here is Henrik Pfeiffer. Superb running from this man, who has tasted victories on the domestic scene. He is the first German here today. He wins the German championships in effect here as he crosses the line there, unofficially in 2:09.14. And Pfeiffer knows. Well, when the adrenaline wears off, the fatigue kicks in with interest. 24th last year, into the top 10 this year. That is some meteoric rise.
Terrific. Well, it'll be interesting to see what the German Federation do about funding decisions after that performance. I think if I was him going to have the meeting, I'd just take my thermometer with me and say, here we are.
Absolutely. And you know, you look at all the athletes that run today, I suspect these conditions worth 3 minutes, maybe more. I'm sure that some of these lads that have just come in, with the women all still out there, will say 3 minutes, you're having a laugh. It's more like 5 minutes. There's the 3rd placer, Tumdesa Debele. Good cross-country runner, 11th and 16th the last 2 editions of the World Cross Country, as is this man, Sebastian Sawe. Great on the country, great on the roads. Funnily enough, doesn't really have track pedigree, but that doesn't matter. This race, similar to his last 2 runs, in that it was a spectacular victory in an Abbott World Marathon Majors race, but very, very different in that his last 2 races he's had negative splits. Today, quite the opposite.
So 1 Kenyan home. Are we heading for a Kenyan dub? But it looks very much like that, because Rosemary Wanjiru here is on her way for what would be a maiden Berlin victory. She said, I feel fine, I want to run a very fast time. The weather, as we've mentioned several times, has obviously been a big factor in that, but here she is in the latter stages. She's going to hopefully get inside 2:20, and that would be fabulous consistency for Rosemary Wanjiru. She put in the spurt just after the halfway point, and she blew the rest of the field away, and she's now on her own. She's had company for most of the race, unlike her compatriot Sebastian Sawe. She said she wanted to go sub 2:15. That's before really anybody realised how warm it was going to be. She's just having another look round. She's probably got enough of a margin there. You never know, do you? And they always say it's never a good idea to spend too much time and energy looking round, but she's got male runners in her wing mirrors, and if we just look to the right of picture, there is Fabienne Königstein, who has been looking brilliant throughout the whole race. Pfeiffer, the leading German man, already safely home, and look at that, Tim, just striding out beautifully. That cadence has barely changed in the last half an hour or so.
Well, she's looked really strong, hasn't she? I think that's what's noticeable. Right up on her toes. I mean, she's almost tiptoeing here. That takes enormous leg strength, enormous strength in the calves and the ankles. and she's looking great, and she's glued to that pacemaker who's done a wonderful job for her, and she will rightly be getting massive support on the big cheering sections.
So Rosemary Wanjiru at the head of the elite women's race, approaching the 40-kilometre mark. She's almost there. She'll do that series of dog legs we saw. There's the next of them, the left turn, and she will come into Jondermark. That's a beautiful square that I was mentioning with the opera in the middle and the two cathedrals north and south of the square. Still looking around. She has raced here before, so she should remember the course. Made her debut here in 2022 with Tigges Dasefa setting that blistering time of 2:15.37. That was a course record at the time.
Well, the weather conditions have been tough for everybody. Let me just point out to you as we see Wanjiru that was a warm weather world record unofficially, 2:02.15. It's also a world best for this year by Sébastien Saoué, improving on his own world best from London, where he won by over a minute. So it is, by several criteria, a miraculous run from Saoué, although I know he and his team, his management and coach will be disappointed, but they shouldn't be. This has been a magnificent run from him, and a magnificent run building here from Wanjiru. Yeah,
Wanjiru's got just one or two more dog legs to go. She's into the final kilometre and a half, past the fancy restaurant very shortly, then on to Glinkenstrasse. From there she'll have just 900 metres to go. There is Jondermark, this wonderful square. It really is quite beautiful. The Opera House there on the left, in the middle, and then the newly renovated French cathedral there at the north of the square, with the German one to the south as well. This is very, very close, just a couple of more turns, and she will be onto Unter den Linden, and then she'll remember, if she's forgotten this part of the course, she'll remember, I'm sure, seeing the Brandenburg Gate. There is the Opera House, there is the French cathedral. She'll take a left, and her lead, I wish I could transmit this to her, is over 30 seconds, 36 seconds. She's doing a lot of running, of looking round, and that suggests to me that she hasn't got that information, but she can relax, she can breathe easily. The time doesn't matter. If she could get under 2:20, it's just projected to just slip outside of 2:20, but as we saw with Sébastien Saoué, he was able to just stretch the legs and open the stride a little bit once he got onto the final 300-metre stretch from the Brandenburg Gate. A little bit of shade here will be very welcome as she takes the final side of the square, and then there'll be a right-hand turn into Glinkenstrasse.
Didn't expect quite such a dominant run, did we, Chris? When you look at the strength of the field behind her, Zimmeror, 2:17 athlete, Gerardina, 2:18 athlete, Fikir was a 2:18 performer, so was Girma, that group of great Ethiopians, even Hanomi Maeda, the Japanese national record on 2:18 performer. And I thought these conditions might suit her better, but this has been a truly dominant run from Wanjiru. I mean, bit of deja vu here from what happened a few minutes ago.
Indeed so. Kenya heading for a 1-2, and of course, as we saw the Kenyan fans greeting Sébastien Saoué, I was thinking, what a seamless segue from the Eliud Kipchoge era, where they came out in number. Many of them will be the same people, I'm sure, who turned out onto the streets of Berlin year after year to greet Eliud home as the victor. Now we're into the Sébastien Saoué era, and are we heading here surely for a Kenyan double? 41 kilometres looms into view, so 1,200 metres all that remain for Rosemary Wanjiru to get her first World Marathon Major win here in Berlin. She has won Tokyo, that was a couple of years ago. She's performed well there over the years. Second here 3 years ago on her debut. So she's still running really the first few marathons of her career. It's not as though she's run 10 or 20 marathons, but it could be on or around 2:20, probably just outside 2 hours 20 minutes. Here she is on the Glinkenstrasse, and then she'll make that final turn onto Unter den Linden, and then she will see the Brandenburg Gate. And the crowds here are pretty decent. They're particularly on the right-hand side, nice and full. But once she turns into Unter den Linden, it's a different level.
Well, Rosemary Wanjiru served her apprenticeship. She was fourth in the World Championships 10,000 metres back in 2019 in the sweltering heat of Doha. Her personal best is 29.50, Chris. She has great track pedigree, and you bring that to the roads and then put in the training, and you're very, very hard to beat.
And she's been very hard to beat today. There are the arches of the Brandenburg Gate. This will feel good. The lime trees, left and right, these iconic lime trees, which is the name that gives Linden its name. That means lime tree in German. Unter den Linden, formerly in East Berlin, of course, and in years gone by, and still she continues to look round. She has 30 seconds at least. You can relax Rosemary. She doesn't know that. Surely, now gritting her teeth, she's into the final 900 metres, and she will go through those famous arches here on Unter den Linden, and she'll come into Pariser Platz, which for 28 years, this particular section she's just about to approach, for 28 years, this was out of bounds. It was no man's land. It was between East and West Berlin. If you tried to get through there, you risked being killed. It was as simple as that. It was known as the death strip, and now it's teeming with life. Rosemary Wanjiru is almost there. The final few stretches, and Dida is fast approaching. Dida is coming back at her. Where has this come from? Well, our information was that she had a 30-second lead, and she was right to be concerned here, because Dida from somewhere has come storming back into contention. Dida is not out of this race yet. This could come down to a sprint as they come through Pariser Platz and get into the final 355 metres. Unlike in the men's race, we could have a race on our hands here yet. Dida, the wife of Tamarit Tola, the Olympic champion, there are the gates. For years, the middle arch was reserved just for the king. Only the king could go through. Today, it's sporting royalty who can go through. Dida, now then, is there a little twist in the race here? Now it's 355 metres, one lap of the track, even less than that. And she's going to have to get a shift on here. I think she may have just enough. And she lengthens her stride, and now she can stride away. And has Dida's resolve been broken? This is a stretch that has been trodden by the likes of Gladys Cherono, Tegla Laroupe from Kenya, Geta Wami, Tigist Sefer, of course, the course record holder. All know what it's like. Irina Mikitenko for Germany. Dida coming again as she ran out of road. Wanjiru surely on her way to victory here, heading for a time under 2:21. She was victorious in Tokyo in 2023. She was second on her debut here in 2022 behind Tigist Sefer, but she's had to work hard here, and she was right to be looking around, and she continues to do so. Surely now for the foreshortening, she is home. There is Dida heading for victory here. Wanjiru is going to take the victory. Dida in pursuit. In 2025, it's a Kenyan double. Sebastian Sawe in the men's race. Rosemary Wanjiru wins the Berlin Marathon 2025, just outside 2:21. Dida, though, what a recovery from Dida to get second place. Wanjiru, the first Kenyan to win this race in the women's race for 7 years. She breaks the Ethiopian domination. That was hard work. Wow. Dida coming home in second place. And it looks like Asmera Gebru, Ethiopia, for third place. So Kenya 1, Ethiopia 2 and 3. And here is the leading German. Goodness me, what a performance this is by Fabienne Königstein. Fabulous running with the German support getting louder and louder. Her personal best is 2:25.48. She said she was aiming for something sub 2:23, and she's going to smash her personal best. Looking really good here. Fabienne Königstein unofficially in fourth place here. What a performance from Fabienne Königstein. Well,
The German record still 2:19.19 by Irina Mikitenko, but Fabian Königstein has put in a brilliant performance and has come home as the first German, subject to confirmation, in 4th place. Brilliant from Königstein. Pfeiffer was the best of the German men. He was 8th. That's the best placed German since 1990, when Jörg Peter finished in 3rd place. So brilliant from Königstein, brilliant from Pfeiffer as well.
On a day that has tested them all, the German crowds have had something to really cheer about up at the front end of each of the men's and women's races.
And Königstein, well, just looking. She has run a personal best here by a massive margin. Something like 3 minutes inside her lifetime best. In sweltering conditions. Conditions that I think are probably worth about 3 minutes. It's not a case of back to the drawing board for any of these athletes. It's back to racing in normal, more user-friendly conditions. That's what they'll be looking for in their next test, whenever it comes. And of course, a race in these conditions does take longer to it's just a little bit more punishing on a cellular level. I doubt many of these athletes will run another marathon this year. Spring marathons coming up, of course, Tokyo in early March, London and Rotterdam, and Boston beckon in April. But for Fabian Königstein, well, this opens up new doors, new opportunities. As ever, Berlin has delivered. Here's that winning form, Rosemary Wanjiru. Little adjustment to her direction of movement in the last few meters, but she took the victory here today in spectacular style. Under pressure in the closing stages from Ethiopia's Dira Dida, who ended up in 2nd place, only a few meters behind. The glorious feeling of winning a marathon again. She won in Tokyo 2023. It's her first marathon victory since. Totally spent. No time wasted at all. Getting flat on the deck there. Dira Dida delighted with that 2nd place. She's a 2:18 performer. Wanjiru was slightly quicker on paper than the rest of the field, and she failed no one. Dida there, great cross-country runner in her time, taking 3rd place, 2nd place rather, and then Gebru taking 3rd. So Ethiopians in 2 and 3. Azmira Gebru, she a 2:20 athlete, never broken 2:20, would have hoped to today, probably would have done, but for the dire weather conditions. Glorious for spectators, glorious for those celebrating with real vigour amongst the crowds, whether Kenyan or of any other nationality. But a shame for the organisers that the weather here today came out on top. Well, so nearly came out on top. I don't think anything can defeat the human spirit when it's gathered together in its masses. The hundreds of thousands of spectators today, the 50,000 plus runners put on an amazing show. And let's not forget that the vast majority of that 50,000 plus field.
Right, indeed. A very good afternoon. Of course, you can just hear the energy here at of course, Eldoret. You can see, of course, a lot of conversation there in the background. It just gives you a sense of what is transpiring here. Thank you very much, Mr. MC. Here in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, the marathon has just concluded, and it's a double joy for Kenya because Sebastian Sawe has reigned supreme in the men's competition, and Rosemary Wanjiru has triumphed in the women's competition as expected. Those are the two pre-race favorites, and they have delivered to the letter. So it means the last time that happened was in 2018 when Eliud Kipchoge and Gladys Cherono triumphed on the same day at the Berlin Marathon. But let's just get the immediate reactions of some of the locals here who are celebrating, who are enjoying all the action in the streets of Berlin. We are here in the City of Champions. Let's listen to what they have to say. Gladys Midecha is somewhere with some fans who are happy, smiling for the right reasons.
Well, thank you very much, Bernard. We have been up on our feet since Sebastian Sawe won this race, and my goodness, the heat in Berlin must have come here to Kenya because it is hot, but people are very happy that Sebastian Sawe has won this race, and Rosemary Wanjiru is on her way to give Kenyan a double. Now, this is only the first time in 7 years that a Kenyan lady is winning the Berlin Marathon, so it's of course double joy for us even as we wait for Tokyo action later on in the afternoon. But I'm going to be speaking to a few fans who joined us here. No, people are here in good numbers, but let's just hear what they have to say. Habari yako, unaweza anza na jina lako na utuambie umehisi vipi kuhusu Sawe kushinda.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Simon Biwot, the winner of Berlin Marathon 2000. I am really excited that Sebastian Sawe has won the Berlin Marathon. I think since the first Kenyan won, he is going to be the 20th Kenyan who has won Berlin Marathon. And the ladies are coming strong. We are really excited. We came here to join. And we have been together with the German ambassador. And we really appreciate because Berlin is very nice when it comes to organization, the best organized race and also the best fast race in the world. Thank you very much.
As a former marathon runner, the heat in Berlin has been not normal, 25 degrees, but just tell us a bit about the time, 2:02:15.
Yes, at first when it began, we thought maybe the world record was going to be broken. But as we got update about weather, we saw that that was going to bite a lot in terms of time. But still 2:02 is a fast time. I believe Sebastian Sawe, if he had the best environment, that's in terms of climate, I think he would have broken the world record. So still, we have hope that this record will still remain in Kenya for some time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bernard. 2:21:04 is the time that Rosemary Wanjiru has clocked in the Berlin Marathon, making it a Kenyan double. And as you can hear, it is all jubilation here on the ground. Wacha nizungumze na mwingine mmoja, tuone anahisi vipi kuhusu the Berlin Marathon double win for Kenya. Ulikuja hapa, umeshuhudia, umefurahia?
Nimefurahia sana. Kwa majina naitwa Eric Bruno Sawe. So naposikia jina Sawe, ni Sawe ya familia. Niko na furaha na nimefurahi zaidi. Asanteni. Sema Wasingishu, ongera Wasingishu, all of champions.
Well, there you have it. So, Bernard, let's allow people to celebrate here on the ground, and let's take it back to you so that we can just have more about this conversation, the Berlin Marathon, and what joy it has brought us today.
Thank you very much. Of course, Gladys Midecha, they're just interacting with a very, very special guest. It was interesting to know that she got a former champion. He won it in 2000. So a lot of history in terms of the Berlin Marathon. And of course, just to dissect and reflect on what has transpired. Remember, this is not only a solitary thing that we're able to ensure that such events are able to happen to its fruition. We also, it's important to appreciate these other partners who are very involved in such ventures. And we have Lucy Ngendo, who is the CEC Education of Singishu County. Thank you so much for joining us. We had there one of the gentlemen just happy saying, with the city of champions. So obviously it just shows that spirit still reigns supreme. We also have the ambassador of Germany, Your Excellency Sebastian Groth. Thank you so much for joining us. And also have Abraham Mutai, Athletics Kenya South Rift Chairman. He also doubles up in different roles in terms of marketing athletics. And I begin with you, Your Excellency. How's it been for you in terms of the Berlin Marathon, the history it has with Kenyan athletes? Because if you think about it, 13 records have been broken in the streets of Berlin. So there's such a very special connection between Kenya and Germany.
No, that's true, and I'm very happy to be here. First of all, thank you to all the people in Eldoret and also Nation TV and the county government. It's a fantastic experience. It's the second time that we do this project together, public viewing party here in Eldoret, and statistically, every time we do it, a Kenyan wins. So we can continue probably in the future also. No, but you are right. It's a fantastic competition in Berlin. 55,000 runners today, 80,000 in total, meaning like wheelchairs and rollerblades people. 1 million spectators cheering up the crowd. And today, this fantastic double win by Kenya from Rosemary and from Sebastian. And I can only say, hongera sana.
Abraham, of course, it's special for Athletics Kenya, obviously, because of the kind of dominance that Kenya's had in the Berlin Marathon. But it's interesting the fact that this has been a week of sports because you just came back, I believe, from Tokyo, from the World Athletics Championships.
True.
How was it? Of course, currently we have, I want everyone to remember this number currently. It is 6-2-2. You know why? 6 gold, 2 silver, 2 bronze. Special week for Kenya in terms of sports. Yeah.
True. The whole week we've been winning, and today, being a Sunday, has been also a good day because we've won double in Berlin. And I want to say that in the next one hour or so, again, we are going to win, maybe, and close it in Tokyo very well.
Yes.
I know the number 6-2 will change into a better one, 7, which is also the best number for all of us. But I want to say that as a country, the sport is really picking up well. And as you see, the sport now is attracting even the sponsors to come in and sponsor this. We've seen the embassy doing the watch party. We've seen other sponsors coming in, Petika, KCB. All the corporates now are looking at sports to make sure that everything that goes around the sports is being looked at by sponsoring and making sure the athletes are doing well.
Absolutely. There's something key that I'm interested in understanding because if you look at the kind of athletes who have competed for Kenya, we have Sebastian Sawe who's just won the Berlin Marathon. How do you convince some of these athletes to be representing us in the World Athletics Championships? Because we'd also want to see what Perez Jepchirchir replicated in the women's marathon in Tokyo, similarly for the men's as well, and in other competitions as well.
Yeah, I want to say that first of all, we really want to really thank the government, our sponsors, and the organizers of the World Championship, Berlin Marathon, and other sponsors because one, there's good money to be won in those races. I know the choices now is with the athlete to say, where do I go? Because we didn't win the men marathon, but we've now won the Berlin. So Sebastian was in our list of proposals who are going to Tokyo. But as you've seen, he was also having another assignment already engaged in Berlin. But I want to say that the direction that we are taking now will really make athletes to come and compete for the country. These are the World Championship, Commonwealth Games, and Olympic, because we've seen the government commitment now in topping up good money. You know, remember here we have what we call the prize money, right. We have the appearance money, and we have also the bonuses. So we are now good with prize money from the World Championship. We are good with the government now we need to work on the bonuses. So means the government needs to put in maybe more money, and we will see everybody coming. Because as you've seen even in football, you know, the other day when people are promised money, we won, and it tells you that we are doing it on a commercial scale, and we really have to be ready to bring more money so that we see things changing, and especially in the world of sports. Of course, this is a sporting country, no doubt. Number one when it comes to athletics, for that matter, and as a federation, we are giving the best advices now to all our sponsors, government being the lead sponsor, to make sure that the athletes are getting the best out of their sweat.
I like the fact that your energy went up when you started talking about the increment in terms of support, but it's understandable and it's important to have such partnerships, commercial partnerships. You also talked about the government, and I'll just move on to the county government. You'll be doing a lot in terms of fostering athletic scholarships. Just give us some context of what that is all about.
What the county government has been able to do is to ensure, in regards to also partnership, more training camps for the students and also the young people who are also keen in ensuring that the talent comes home with the money. And also we want to appreciate His Excellency, the President, and also the Governor for ensuring that Kipchoge